Did Gibson actually discontinue the Firebird? Welcome back, troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Back in 2019, Gibson changed ownership, and that first NAMM show brought back the return of Gibson. That's when they brought out the original collection and the modern collection. They simplified Gibson's offerings, things made sense again, and almost every single model that you could want was available, including the Firebird 5. Albeit all those models not exactly the same as the custom shop reissues, they were pretty close for the most part. But my friends, did you realize the Firebird disappeared a couple of years ago? Let's talk about that today as we document a trade that I made. Inside here sleeps an original collection 2019 Gibson Firebird 5. So it's in a nice tobacco burst finish. You also had the option for a cherry red one, and it was a pretty standard Firebird as far as these things go. I mean, you get the bird on your pick guard, you get the Firebird pickups. It's not one of the fancy ones with a vibrola trem unit or anything. You got binding along the neck with your trapezoid inlays. It's the correct neck through construction. It goes all the way through the body. You just have wings on the side of the neck essentially down here. And pretty much the only thing they didn't get right is the headstock, and that's just due to cost-cutting measures. So we've got the tuners sticking out the side over here, and on the back we can see that they're mini Grovers. Whereas a historic or normal Firebird would look like this. It would have a raised veneer section, exposing other color on the edges, and you can see the tuners are actually in the middle, creating a straight string pull design. Now, how are you supposed to tune these things? Well, they actually utilized banjo-style tuners, but these things are big and crazy, and they're known for breaking headstocks. If you want to learn more about this particular guitar, it is the Johnny Winter signature that we documented in this episode. So if you've ever wondered why Firebird cases are obnoxiously thick, I mean, look how tall that is. It's because they're trying to compensate for that. So even though our Firebird friend that we're reviewing here today doesn't have that spec, it's still shipped with a case that would accommodate for all those tuners to not touch down. Now the Firebird has a whole storied history. It was first introduced in 1963, but there's guys out there that collect the custom color 60s variations, but it only lasted like that for a couple of years with the 1, 3, and 5 model before they introduced the non-reverse Firebird. You slowly transition into them around 1965-ish. So are there reverse Firebird 5s that are vintage out there from 65 that look similar to these? Yes, but I don't think they were necessarily trying to channel those reissues. It's more so cost savings. The core Firebird during the 70s and 80s is kind of a mix between a Firebird 1 and 5. The 70s had the medallion Firebirds, but it's 1990 when they bring these things back into regular production, and they've kind of been on and off since then, custom shop as well as Gibson USA. I collect really cool custom color early 90s ones. Now, let's be real here, the Firebird has never been Gibson's most popular design, but it definitely has a cult niche following. So that's probably why nobody noticed these things disappear. 2019, 2020, you could get these things if you wanted them. However, it's around 2021 where Gibson soft discontinues these things and just doesn't talk about them. So you start to get people asking about them on internet forums. Hey, I noticed these things are never in stock anymore. For example, if you go to Sweetwater right now and you type in Gibson Firebird, the only thing that shows up are the custom shop models. Now that's not saying much because Sweetwater is typically the dealer that sells out of guitars quickest, and if they're not going to get any more, they pull the listing. But if you go to Guitar Center and you do it, you gotta remember they have so many stores, there's bound to be a floor model there somewhere. They leave their listings up quite long, but they don't have it. Now you can argue it is still listed on Gibson's website for the original $2,000 price tag, but you could also say Gibson still has the custom shop Adam Jones listed. It just says out of stock. I really hope in the future they create an archival page, because unless it's your job documenting Gibson guitars, you might not know it. There might be a poor fool out there waiting for the Joe Perry Gold Rush still to restock. So still on Gibson's website, but never in stock. The other thing comes with the price tag. How much did one of these things cost brand new in 2019? It was $1,999. Since 2019, we've had at least 3 price increases that I can remember, but that price has never changed. If it was still in production, it would have easily at least been $2,500 by now. Les Paul 50 standards, when they were first introduced, they were $2,499, and now they're up to $3,000. Something to back up that theory is if you actually look on the used market of these things, they're selling for more than they did brand new, which is apparent on other models as compared to their new 2019 price. So why did they go away? Was it due to low demand? Was it not accurate enough and that's why people weren't buying it? And maybe Gibson did away with these to push the Epiphone and custom shop iterations. Personally, I think it's probably because they're too labor intensive. It's Gibson's only neck through guitar, and if people aren't that crazy about it, why worry about it? So here's what I see in the future. I think we could see the return of the non-reverse Firebirds as a Gibson USA production run, or maybe we'll see the Firebird 5 come back in like a set neck variation, because as of right now, it does not look like they're making them, which kind of makes the original collection feel a little bit bare. So that's why I wanted to document this guitar, because I actually got this as part of a trade. Now, what model am I trading this for? It's in an equally big chunky case. It is my Gibson LeGrand, or LeGrand, however you want to pronounce it. It's a beautiful, super fancy Archtop guitar that we documented about a year ago. I'm definitely going to miss this thing because the rare dark Wineburst finish just looks so good on an Archtop guitar. Now naturally, these are not worth exactly the same, 10 grand versus like 2-ish, so there was some money thrown on top. But let's go ahead and throw this Firebird on the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs. Well, that one cleaned up pretty nicely. Let's go ahead and check out what these pickups are labeled as. Looks like we're rocking Rhythm Firebird in the neck and Lead Firebird in the bridge, with dates of 5/22/19 and 4/12/19. Now, Firebird pickups and mini humbuckers, they might look similar, but they're constructed completely differently. Typically, Firebirds have no pull pieces exposed. But you'll notice the pickup rings are shiny and reflective just like the pickup, but it's actually just a little topper on it, similar to what they did with Lzzy Hale's signature Explorers and a few other guitars. So if you didn't like that vintage look to it and wanted something a little bit more modern, you could remove that. You would just have to take your pickup out of the surrounds because that's what keeps it in place. Firebird pickups are typically pretty hot. I mean, this is the 200k ohm setting and we're getting 23.8, and the neck at 15.5. In the middle position in our regular reading slot is 9.4. Typically these are pretty bright sounding pickups, so we'll have to see how this particular run sounds. As far as our pickup cavity, it reads TBX, although it likely means tobacco burst, and then X is just for something else. Here we can see the maple block that caps off the truss rod. Then our bridge pickup cavity, DS for Designer Series FB Firebird. Then original collection guitars tend to end with a 00 or something like that. The bridge is your standard lightweight aluminum Nashville API branded bridge, and it has the posts that allow a hex key to do the adjustments. The tailpiece is also lightweight aluminum by the same company. 2 volumes, 2 tones, 1 for each set of pickups. Your output jack is located on the front, and you've got your toggle switch on the upper bout. Now underneath here, you just have a little bit of wiring so they can install the toggle switch. Seems like a lot of work to do all that, but it's probably easier for them to do that because you gotta remember, this is a piece of mahogany, this is still your neck, and then this is another piece of mahogany that they just join to the neck. So drilling straight in like that, it's hardly an issue. But that's right, that center portion on a Firebird is slightly raised. That's what makes the initial version kind of cool. But this is made of 9 layers of wood. You have a big piece of mahogany, small walnut, little mahogany, small walnut, medium mahogany, small walnut, tiny mahogany, small walnut, big mahogany. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Paint is so dark in this join line area, but usually it looks like this. It has a triangle cut in. However, it looks like maybe to save some time and effort, they only do a flat join on these, but it takes a really strong light to see it. That wraps up the body. We can continue up the neck here with a rosewood fretboard, which we have acrylic trapezoid inlays. If you prefer dots, you can check out a Firebird 1 or 3, but that may change your pickup configuration depending on which one you're buying. And at the current time, I don't think those are in production, not even as a limited edition for anybody. Standard 12-inch fretboard radius, and I measure approximately a 12-degree headstock pitch with about a 3-degree neck angle. But in nut width, we've got 1.68 inches. That increases to 2.07 by the 12th. First fret neck depth, 0.87, and 0.96 by the 12th. Here's a look at that neck profile, 1st fret and 12th fret. You can see the roundedness. After putting it on the contour gauge, there is a little bit of flatness to the neck, right on the back. Overall, I actually really like this neck. So I told you earlier I collect 90s Firebirds, but I just like the custom colors and the fact that that was the first time it kind of returned, in a traditional sense anyways, since they took a long hiatus after the early 80s. But I hate those neck profiles. They feel so thin and wide, but this one, it's definitely got a little bit of a roundedness to it. So if you've tried a 90s Firebird and didn't like it, but you did try a custom shop and liked it a bit more, this is slightly more akin to a custom shop, but those ones are usually a little bit chunkier. Moving on to the face of the headstock, again, no raised veneer, you just have a veneer over top the entire headstock. Truss rod's looking good on this one, and our truss rod cover is single ply black with a gold Gibson logo. And here's the tuners on this one. Not traditional, not as good as having the tuners staggered in the headstock. Moving on to the back here, since the toggle switch is top routed in that cavity that we saw earlier, all we have back here are the pots, which just all appear to be Gibson branded. You've got your ceramic disc capacitors. Doesn't look like these got the orange drops that most everything in the original collection got, but you've got your switchcraft output jack. But you can see we got the large style strap buttons, slightly offset right here, and then another one at the base of the heel in the neck. But what's kind of cool is you got that tobacco burst finish, and then it's got that really dark edge. As I was showing you earlier, the reason they do the really dark edge is it helps hide the seam lines. But then you move on to the neck, and they don't actually burst it outside of right here. It's just a natural color up and down. Now, not all Firebirds are like that. It just kind of depends what era you're purchasing them in. But you can see all the pieces in the neck. And if you're curious, if you have a 2019, how do you know it was late Henry J or early Curly era? It's how the serial number is. So if it's leading 19 for 2019, that's how you know it's Henry J. Once you switch back into the year, day, year system, that's when you know for sure you're within Curly era. However, I'm sure there were some Curly ones produced like that. I don't think there was a true cutoff. We've got our Made in USA stamp right there. That doesn't read Made in USA 2019. Nice wood grain back here, but here's a closer look at our Mini Grover tuners. Condition-wise, this one's pretty clean, but there is a small ding right here. And I'm not sure what caused this. There's just a few small chips in the lacquer right here. Might have been a stand, but who knows. And of course, all your typical light hazing and polishing swirls. Overall, this thing was definitely taken care of. And on the scale, it's just under 7.5 pounds. 7 pounds, 7.6 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in, and hear how it sounds. The tones are kind of interesting out of this. It's a lot more deep and dark sounding than most Firebirds in the past. Because normally that bridge pickup will just really bite your ear off. That has a real telly-like tone to it. Your neck position? It's got that woodiness to it. And middle position. It's different, but I like it. Let's try some dirt.
Now that we know all about the original collection Firebird, that didn't last too long, what are my final thoughts on this thing? I guess I can kind of see why they discontinued it. It's not really like most Firebirds. Honestly, if I was buying this thinking it was a Firebird, it's got some elements to it, but the pickups just aren't exactly what I'm used to as compared to the custom shops. However, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It just kind of sounds like regular Firebird pickups, but with their tone on like 7 or 8. But I do want to comment on this one. It's very nice and balanced. It doesn't feel overly heavy, and it's incredibly resonant. I feel the whole thing vibrating through the neck, so that's good. But I'm really glad I tried this mainly for the neck profile, because this feels very nice to me. If you've tried other Firebirds and didn't like them, maybe give this a chance. If you were looking more so for a in-between neck that still has a nice roundedness to it, and you thought other ones were a little bit too flat feeling. But as of right now, the future of the Gibson USA Firebirds seems to kind of be up in the air, so your used market is your best bet to find one of these. But if you're interested in being the next owner of this one, you can find it on my website, troglysguitarshow.com. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.
If you enjoyed tonight's episode, consider subscribing. I post videos like this every day. And you might even enjoy this next one.